dude, can we just agree on the fact that Apple has quite possibly the worst pricing on anything? In fact, I don't think we have to agree. I think everybody kind of knows that. Now, I have this weird thing with Apple. You know, I've used some of their products, you know, up until like a year ago, I was an iPhone user. And I'll say this much, you know, I don't think Apple products are inherently bad. I think in a lot of ways they can be okay. They can be quite all right. You know, I didn't have any complaints with my phone or tablet or anything of the sort. I think usually my biggest problem with Apple is their computer side, because Apple loves to screw you over on the computer side, even on the iPhone side. Now, the only reason I don't use iPhone anymore is because for the price that you would be paying on an iPhone, you'd be an absolute moron not to go with the competition that actually provides you better quality screens, batteries, and performance versus, for say, the Apple branding. I don't really care so much for the branding. I actually care for the product. You know, like I think a real consumer should. If you're buying something, buy it for the quality of the product, buy it for, you know, what the product will give you in return versus a fucking logo that you barely get to see on the back of the phone. Let's be real. Now, Apple computers have always weirded me out because I feel like they absolutely screw you over the pooch. They design these things really, really shoddily, and for some reason, you know, people defend it. You know, for me, an iMac or an iMac Pro means jack fucking shit. You buy one of these products, and they're so poorly created in terms of thermal throttling that you use this high, expensive chipset you buy in your Mac for 10 minutes doing any form of work, and then it slows down to half of its speed because Apple didn't design the system right. And that's a solid reason why I don't ever touch their devices to begin with. I don't, even working with video edits for a living, I don't see the reason for me to go buy a Mac just for the sake of it. You know, there used to be a point where, yeah, they provided you good software, I guess. In the end of the day, it didn't really crash as much, and it still really doesn't. But nowadays, most Windows computers that you'll use will pretty much be equivalent, if not better. I've sort of realized that as I'm going through. I guess for me, Mac is kind of that legacy thing where, you know, people think you need it when in all realities you don't. Now, the new Mac Pro that's coming out, yeah, it looks kind of fancy. For the fucking price tag, it kind of should be. Apparently, if you add all the features like 1 terabyte of RAM and God knows what, you can get this thing up to like 30,000, maybe 40,000. You know, the price of a fucking nice vehicle, by the way. Yeah, that's how much your Mac can cost. Now, there has been fucking tried and proven studies that, yes, you can build a computer for the same price as a Mac using the same parts. And in some ways, when you go to the Mac Pro's like higher end line, you're almost kind of paying relatively the same amount for the parts that you would be building a Windows computer. So maybe in that case, things get kind of iffy, but you can always build a comparatively decent Windows computer and get better performance than your standard Mac for sure. All the Apple branding and doodads that they like to mention and show to you really don't mean much, because sometimes Apple will show you technology in 2019 that has existed since 2017, become mainstream on PCN since 2018, but Apple always likes to pass it off as it's the fucking brand new thing. So regardless, they make this new Mac Pro. And I hate the designs of these things because you can hear the names themselves, and when people say it, it almost makes me wonder, it's like, why are you going to it? Because you either have a garbage can Mac to deal with or a fucking cheese grater. I'm sorry, but when that's the descriptors to your actual device, you need to do a redesign that's a little more modern, by the way. Just pointing that out. Now, the device is okay. You know, it's your standard average Mac Pro. It's designed for people who need a workstation rig and so on and so forth. It comes from Apple, and yeah. Now, they've got this new display that they made called a Pro Display XDR, which I guess is sort of like the engineering 5K display that you would use for color corrections and video production and all that good stuff. Now, that's all fine and dandy. But Apple Keynote just went one step above. So they're giving away, all right? Not giving away, what the fuck am I saying? They're giving you a stand, the stand for this display. Now, you might wonder, well, how much would the stand for the fucking display be? Well, I don't know, $250, $300, $400, $500. What about $1,000 fucking dollars? How about we put that down into the goddamn Apple Keynote highlight, which it already has. $1,000 for a fucking for a display holder? You know, when I first read this, I was like, maybe this is like some external GPU like hidden crafted by Apple. But then I remembered, this is fucking Apple that I'm talking about, dude. Do you think they're gonna give you more than a goddamn display stand? Hell no. So yeah, we've reached a point where a fucking display stand can cost the same price as an actual cellular device sold by Apple. And I wonder if this is some like weird late April Fool's joke that they made themselves to see just how much of the knife they can dig in and twist a little bit to their user base. And no, they're not even fucking kidding. They're going all the way out to kind of do this. And I hope that this is sort of the catalyst that sparks people from waking up from giving the Apple tax for no reason. Apple is one of those companies that honestly, they I guess at one point they've created something that was a vision for the future, all that good stuff. And nowadays, I find Apple to just be a company that relies more on their brand power than actually providing a comparatively good product. You know, if you truly care about, you know, the thing about it is, it's not the money that gets me. I really don't care about the money that I would spend on the product. I care about actually getting what I want for the product. When you spend money, all right, when you spend thousands of dollars on something, you want to make sure you optimize for something that gives you the best returns. And I feel like Apple fans completely ignore that. That line of thinking just goes out the fucking door. Because when you look at the pricing on some of these devices or laptops, everything, they design these things in a way that they don't give you the best performance you can. You still buy them just because I guess they look nice and the build quality is okay. But I mean, I guess that kind of contradicts. No, you fuck the build quality. If it's throttling like that, it's not really built that well. But when you're buying the products from Apple like this, when you're buying all of it and you find out the tax is so heavy and you start looking at the comparative products and then you still don't get them because I guess it's fucking Apple. I guess I'm tied to the Apple fucking ecosystem. Might as well stick to it. Then you got to break out as soon as you can. The only reason I ever switched to Android again was mostly out of I had to take this phone because, you know, when you're getting a device, when you have something in front of you, you know, when you got something for $2,000 nearly that is functionally inferior to something for $1,000, then you're literally wasting $1,000. Why? Because it belongs to one of your favorite companies ever. I think that needs to be dropped in. So yeah, $1,000 fucking. Are you kidding, Apple? $1,000 fucking mount for your monitor? Like, get the fuck out of here. For the price of that goddamn monitor, you should have given the mount part of the box. I'm just saying. It's a goddamn mount, dude, for $1,000. At first glance, I was thinking maybe it increases the processing power of the device. Nope. Just a fucking mount. That's all it is. Even from a professional point of view, selling it to a company, you know, when you're giving it to a company who would probably want multiple ways to mount this fucking monitor, giving them $1,000 stand, you might as well have just priced the fucking thing, the display itself, just $1,000 more and put the stand in and said, hey, you know, it's just all part of the same package. Why the fuck is the goddamn monitor and the stand completely separate? Okay, it doesn't make any sense. You're literally finding a way to screw over your fan base and be so transparent about it. You can't even think twice before giving you something right, I guess is what it is. But hey, I guess a stand is made with proper build quality, like some people told me, and you know what? That really isn't a point. For $1,000 fucking dollars, that thing better be made out of goddamn the best materials you can find in the world. But ladies and gentlemen, that's just me. That's just what I gotta say about the situation. So don't gotta keep this video running longer than it has to. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like if you dislike it, I am out.